Riley was expected here.
She does have a reservation for 9 o'clock, Mrs. Count.
Oh, I see. Thank you very much. I see Mr. Buchanan over at that table. I'm going to join him. Why don't you send over a white wine spritzer?
Okay, fine.
Hello, Clint.
Oh, Dorian.
Why don't you marry Viki Riley and put us all out of our misery? Honestly, has she taken total leave of her senses?
Well, I think she was trying to be very clever, and she outwitted herself.
I'll tell you what my theory is. She desperately wanted you to find the check. She isn't publishing a newspaper anymore. She's indulging herself in a very expensive, childish game.
Mrs. Riley, your table's ready.
Thank you, Eduardo. I'm not terribly sure that we're going to be staying, Becky.
Why? What's wrong?
For you.
Aha, well, that cinches it. I think we're going to go someplace else.
Thanks.
Eduardo.
Oh, Viki! Viki!
Okay, I guess I just better think of all the things my father taught me about not running from a fight. Why don't you go sit down? I'll be with you as soon as I can.
Okay, good luck.
Dorian, hello. Clint, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Seems I outfoxed you.
Well, you always were a better fox than I was. Actually, I have to tell you that it seemed to me a stroke of inspiration at the time to hide the check in your office. I had visions of hordes of people overrunning it trying to get the prize.
Yes, well, as soon as I figured that out, I took care of it. I had security stop me outside the Chronicle. Could have been very disruptive and, well, very embarrassing, as you no doubt wished.
$100,000 just thrown away in order to embarrass Clint. I can think of a lot of other ways to do it, and for a lot cheaper.
Tell me, did you get the number of readers you'd hoped for?
Well, we don't know yet. The circulation figures and monthly profit and loss statement will be in a few days.
I can't wait to see them.
We can only hope, Dorian. Excuse me, I mustn't keep Becky waiting.
Oh, by the way, I have no intention of spending the money. No, I'm going to donate it to a charity. In fact, your favorite.
Vicky's favorite charity is obviously the Chronicle.
Clint, you can take that check and do whatever you want with it.
You know, it's extraordinary, the kind of paper that the Banner has become. It used to be so respectable, so reputable, but, you know, now it's turned out to be a forum for practical jokes that just don't work. I wonder what your father would think if he knew what it's become.
Father never faced the kind of problems we have now.
If he did, he would have solved them more intelligently.
Why don't you take it easy on her?
Why?
She feels badly enough as it is. She doesn't need you or me or anyone else to rub it in.
I'm just going to have a small Caesar salad, please. I
Okay.
would have lost my appetite.
Fine.
Viki, I'm so sorry. I know how rotten you're feeling, seeing them was about the last thing you needed.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I did. I have never known this kind of humiliation. It certainly makes one think.
Think about what?
Have I gone totally haywire? I mean, it must have been madness of me to hide that check in Clint's office. Dorian was right.
Dorian, what did she say?
It was a very expensive game I was playing. And what was my objective? Was it really to gain readers for the Banner? Or was it just to embarrass Clint?
Mm-hmm. And not only didn't you embarrass him, but he walked away with a check for $100,000.
What's happened to me?
I could tell you, but you wouldn't like it, and I'm sure you wouldn't agree.
Well, what is it?
It's the fact that you and Clint are in love with each other.
Oh, Becky, please.
Oh, Viki, Ted Clayton has scared you so much you don't know what you're feeling. I mean, you pulled out of that situation so quickly. I think it was too quickly. I think you're still not over it, honey, and I think you're running scared.
Please, Becky, I don't want to cry. I want to cry with Dorian and Clint at the next table.
Oh, then you better pull yourself together. They're walking over to you right now.
Becky, tell me something. Which cut from your latest album are you going to release as a single? I tell you which one my favorite is.
Excuse me, may I interrupt this top 40 discussion, Viki? I have to talk to you about the hospital scandal.
Well, now, couldn't that wait until tomorrow, Dorian?
No, it can't.
First of all, I would like to ask if you've seen the article in the National Intruder where they said they thought that Jenny Jansen had intentionally switched the baby.
Dorian, that's nonsense, and you know it.
Not at all. I think it makes a great deal of sense.
Becky, as I was saying before the rumor monger so absurdly interrupted us,
We'll
my
see
favorite
who's
is the
right.
last.
We'll see.
Viki,
What?
Well, I'll talk to you tomorrow, I guess. Becky?
Good night, Clint. I cannot believe her. How could you possibly think that Jenny would do something like that?
Dorian would accuse Santa Claus if it meant that she had a culprit for this tragedy. Becky, she has her altar built and the fire is going, and by God, she's going to get herself a sacrificial lamb no matter who gets hurt this time.
Yeah. Boy, we all came to the wrong conclusion when we thought having a daughter would change Dorian Lord Callison. Well, you haven't said anything for a while.
I think that some of what you were saying could be true, perhaps. There was a time when I was attracted to Clint, and we had a good relationship. It was slightly romantic, and probably, maybe, could have developed into something, but listen, from the time he quit the Banner, I have to consider myself lucky the way he's been behaving. I found out his true character, and I'm glad I'm not involved. I know you think I'm rationalizing.
Yes, I do think you're rational. I think you're going to keep on doing that until you finally come to grips with your feelings about him. All right. I won't say any more. I'll stop like usual.
Come on, let's go home.
Viki?
What?
I've been doing a lot of thinking since I left here. What the hell's going on? What are we doing to each other?
Viki, I'll take a cab home and make sure the boys are asleep, and you can stay out as long as you like.
Thank
Well, I
you.
won't be long, believe me.
I'm glad you came back.
Thank
See you later.
Well?
I've got a lot of thoughts going on in my head, and they're all trying to come out at once. You remember that old cliche about winning the battle but losing the war?
Yes, of course.
Well, that's the way I feel things are going right now. And I don't like it. I don't like the way I am. I don't like what I've turned you into.
I beg your pardon?
Look, do you think you're the same woman that you were a few months ago? Before this rivalry began?
I think maybe the rivalry has made me wake up and see things a bit more realistically.
Realistic? Is that what you call it? Will you be honest with me, please? Viki, I'm trying to open up the lines of communication between us again. Now, we have to do that before it's too late.
What makes you think it isn't already too late?
I just refuse to believe that. Now, would you just talk to me?
All right, okay. I have acted and thought in ways that are unfamiliar to me, yes, and I think I've been alternately ruthless and stupid. Obviously, hiding the check in your office was the latter.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Let me say something about that. When I found that check behind that plaque, I wanted to just leave it there. I felt badly for you. I didn't want to win it. I didn't want to win it for your sake.
I don't want your sympathy.
You wouldn't have known anything about it, Viki. Look, if we could have just had dinner last night, if we could have just talked. But no, Bill Gerard showed up and I got jealous. And my jealousy and my pride made me rip that check off the wall, call in the photographers, and get a bunch of pictures taken. But I don't want winning. I'm not wanting to win. I'm not getting anywhere with you. Now, to hell with the newspapers.
Well, that's very easy for you to say, but I can't.
Why can't you? Because the Banner used to be your father, so what? You're busting your brains with the Banner. I'm busting my brains with the Chronicle. We're both going home lonely at night. We're waging battles. And we should be making love.
You're making an awful lot of assumptions, and rather arrogant ones.
You know, you couldn't be much more Freudian than hiding that check in my office.
Tell me, is this how you're going to open up lines of communication? By berating me and analyzing me?
I'm not berating you. I'm not analyzing you. I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to get things out in the open.
No, you're not. You're trying to force me to agree with you. My real feelings don't count for anything, do they?
You don't even know what your real feelings are. If you did, you would sell the Banner before you lose it, and you'd marry me. Wait a minute. That's not exactly what I
Who
meant.
do you propose that I sell it to? Reggie Robin?
Look, we both know you're unhappy. Viki.
Well, that's good. Where's Marco?
Marco's off scouting new sites already. And he says if you can't use the parachute thing, that you have to get a new grabber to start the picture off with. Yeah. Plus, he didn't think there was any reason for him to stay at the hospital with Tony.
Oh, that's typical, kind, considerate, sensitive Marco.
Well, he's been that way all his life. I guess he doesn't see any sense in changing now. Oh, he wanted me to tell you something about the writing on that swimming sequence to stop because the new location might change everything.
Oh, great, great. I had almost finished this one.
Do you think I could look at it?
Sure, why not? Hey, I was about to have some lunch. You want to help me out with it?
I thought you'd never ask. You know what I like about your writing, Edwina? The way you capture this Radcliffe character, and you give him elegance and class. That's what he needs. Of course, you're a very elegant and classy woman. Another big difference between you and Marco.
No comment.
How'd you two ever get together?
I hate to disillusion you, but Marco and I weren't so different once upon a time.
I find that very hard to believe.
It's true. We were lost souls, striving for the same thing, kindred spirits, whatever cliche you want to use.
Somehow I just can't picture you as a lost soul.
I was. I was chasing after this guy to the ends of the earth, and I just was at a very low point in my life, and Marco came along. It's a really long story, and I'm not going to bore you with it.
Well, how did you split up? I mean, he didn't throw you out or anything.
Oh, no. I threw him out. Several times, as a matter of fact. You see, we would be very happy. And then suddenly he would go running off with Karen Wollett to the carnival or to do this or to do that. I mean, he'd always come back to me. And he'd always be penitent, and he'd always have good excuses for what he was doing. But I slowly began to realize that this was a pattern that he couldn't break. He just couldn't help himself. And I knew that I didn't want to spend my life like that.
And he still likes you a lot?
He still likes me? Yeah, I guess.
You like him? Worst. But you look...
No, physically I'm fine.
Hi.
Hi. Came as soon as I got your message. What's up?
Yeah, Gary, somebody messed with the chute after I packed it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. As a matter of fact, Tony, one of the seams was torn. How do you think that happened?
I don't know. I was hoping you might be able to tell me about it.
Wait a sec. You're not insinuating what I think you are, right?
Gary, I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just wondering if you know anything about how it might have been unpacked after I'd finished with it.
This is crazy, Tony. I'd never sabotage your chute.
Gary, nobody's trying to accuse
Well,
you.
he sure is. I don't know. I go over to the warehouse to look at your chute. I see one of the seams ripped, and I'm worried somebody's out to get you. And you think it's me. Well, so much for friendship, right?
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find out what happened.
Yeah, right, huh? A lot of people had access to that chute. Drink.
The old lady has really lost her marbles this time. Dorian Callison ought to check herself into the psychiatric ward for a thorough, I repeat, thorough examination.
She'd never do that. Because she knows no shrink would ever let her out again.
She is determined to pin this on somebody. We should be thankful she didn't decide on you or me.
We wouldn't make as much sense as Jenny Jansen.
Who else? Callison won't let this go with just one victim. Do you know she also has Larry Wolnick and Dr. Vernon on her list?
What's a real shame is that this whole thing would have blown over if she just would have let it alone. Callison sees it as a way of clearing house of everyone she dislikes.
Won't be anything left of morale.
And her money. Gary, what's the matter?
No.
Come on. You haven't said 2 words.
just don't want you to get hurt. You know, that's all.
Look, I wish that I hadn't seen them either. You know, but I did. And it hurts, okay? I had to defend her.
You did? Well, are you sure that she's right?
Yes. Yes. From what she said this afternoon, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, how do you know that the... Never mind.
Look, I have no way of knowing for certain if she's right.
Cassie, all I'm saying to you is that you just have to be careful who you trust. And I have found that you're better off if you just don't trust anybody.
Does that mean I shouldn't trust you?
Well,
Come on, Gary. You just said that. Make up your mind.
all right. Okay, you know Tony, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we...
Mind if I join you?
You're my guest.
Thanks. I just have a beer. Oh. So, how do you like Landview? You been here long enough to form an opinion?
It's as good a place as any I've come across.
Well, being a native, I'm glad to hear it. For me, it's the #1 spot in the U.S. of A. Of course, I don't get around much. You've been to quite a few places, though, haven't you?
Been around?
Yeah, that's what I hear. I mean that you can fit in most any place you go. Funny thing about brothers,
What's so funny about him?
how different they can be. Just thinking about you and Marco. I mean, he's older than you, right? But you seem a lot more mature, level-headed. Marco's mostly hot air. Everything he starts leads to nowhere, you know? He gets all revved up about something and it collapses all around him. This movie, for example, I'll tell you the truth, man, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think it's going to be finished.
You seem to know Marco pretty well.
Yeah, you better believe it. Since he moved to Landview, we've crossed each other a number of times. I hear there's no love lost between the two of you either.
You hear a whole lot of things in small towns.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry, I don't mean to pry. I just was wondering why you two don't get along, that's all.
Well, that's something I'd rather not talk about, if you don't mind.
Sure. None of my business. What was it like growing up with Marco as an older brother, though? What was he like then?
Brad, why don't you ask Marco all these questions? I mean, he was going to make a film about himself to offer all this autobiographical detail. Rico here tells me he just left with Jenny Jensen.
Jenny?
Right. I mean, that is what you're trying to do, isn't it? Dig up a little dirt on the guy?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Brad, I know what you're talking about. There's no way you're going to get me to give you any information to even your score with him.
You know something? I take back what I said about you being different. You're just as big a creep as he is.